Somewhere in history, a baby was born who would go on to become one of your ancestors, and mine, and the ancestor of nearly every single person alive on Earth today. Not most people, nearly everyone. A farmer in Peru, a fisherman in Norway, you, me, we all trace back to this one person. And here's the strange part. They weren't a king or a conqueror. They were probably just an ordinary kid. Hi, I'm Al Neelam, and this is Human X. To see how this is possible, remember that your family tree grows fast. It doubles every generation. 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents. Go back 30 generations to roughly the Middle Ages, and you technically need over 1 billion ancestors in that one generation alone. More people than existed on the planet at the time. So something has to give. Your family tree isn't really a tree, it's a tangled net that keeps folding back on itself, because your ancestors kept marrying each other's distant relatives without ever knowing it. 3rd cousins, 5th cousins, people connected so many branches back that neither side would have had a clue. Geneticists call this pedigree collapse, and it's happening in every family tree, all the time.
Which raises a wild question. If everyone's tree keeps overlapping the further back you go, how far back do you have to travel before literally everyone's tree overlaps completely? Before your ancestors and a stranger's ancestors on the other side of the planet turn out to be the exact same people?
In 2004, researchers Joseph Chang, Douglas Rode, and Steve Olson actually built a model to answer that, simulating human migration, mating patterns, and geography across history to see when all our branches would converge. And what they found was that the most recent person from whom every human alive today is directly descended probably lived around 1500 BC in Eastern Asia.
Not tens of thousands of years ago. Within the span of recorded history, while the pyramids were already centuries old, a child was born who would quietly become an ancestor to essentially the entire human race. They had no idea. They weren't chosen or special. They just had kids, who had kids, who had kids, until that bloodline had spread through migration, trade, and war into every corner of the inhabited world.
But it gets weirder. Keep asking that same question further back in time. How far do you have to go before everyone alive today shares the exact same set of ancestors, where every single person from that era is either an ancestor of all of us or an ancestor of none of us? Researchers estimate this identical ancestors point lands somewhere between 5,000 and 15,000 years ago. Before that, your family tree and a stranger's tree from a culture you've never heard of aren't just overlapping, they're identical. Same names, different arrangement.
Picture 2 rivers that look completely separate at the coast, emptying into the ocean miles apart. Trace them upstream far enough, though, and they're fed by the exact same source. If a single ordinary child 3,000 years ago sounds hard to believe, history gives us a smaller, faster version of the same idea. Genghis Khan.
Through generations of conquest, his male line spread so widely that geneticists later found a distinctive Y chromosome pattern in roughly 8% of men across a huge stretch of Central Asia. Millions of men today, descended from one 12th century warlord in under 1,000 years. Now, stretch that same snowball effect across 3,000 years, and it's not hard to see how one obscure kid ends up related to everybody.
Here's the part that should really mess with your head. This isn't a one-time fluke. Once a family line survives and spreads far enough, math basically guarantees it eventually touches everyone. Which means you are probably a future ancestor of a massive number of people too. Someone alive thousands of years from now might carry exactly this connection to you without ever knowing your name.
So next time you picture your family tree, forget the neat little diagram with clean branches. Picture a spider web stretching across every continent and century, one that eventually narrows down to a single forgotten child who had no idea they were about to become one of the most important people who ever lived.